AITA for exposing my wife after she demanded a marriage without intimacy? I'm Albert, 43, and after 11 years of marriage, I knew the sound of my wife Megan's coffee mug hitting the kitchen counter better than I knew what she was thinking anymore. That probably sounds dramatic, but when you've spent that long sharing grocery lists, inside jokes, quiet Sunday mornings, and the same worn-out couch, you notice when love doesn't leave all at once. Sometimes it just starts turning its back to you in bed. Megan and I were never one of those couples who made everyone uncomfortable with too much affection in public, but we used to be easy with each other. She would bump my shoulder while we cooked. I would kiss the top of her head when I walked behind her in the kitchen. We had the kind of marriage where one look across a room could mean, "Did you hear what they just said?" Or, "We're stopping for tacos on the way home." Then, over time, everything got careful. At first, I told myself it was just a season. People get tired. Routines change. Stress settles into a house like dust, and you don't always notice it until the sunlight hits it. Megan started going to bed before me. Then she started sleeping with her back to me. Then she started pulling away before my hand even reached her shoulder, like she had already decided what I wanted before I did. I try not to take it personally. I made dinner more often. Nothing impressive. Pasta, chicken, salads out of a bag, soup when it was cold. I picked up the coffee she liked when I saw it on sale. I stopped asking if she wanted to watch a movie because every time I asked, she said, "I'm tired," in a tone that made me feel like the question itself had exhausted her. One night, she was scrolling on her phone at the kitchen counter while I put leftovers into containers. "Do you want to do something this weekend?" I asked. "Just us. Even if it's just a drive or lunch somewhere." She didn't look up. "I need some space this weekend." "Okay," I said. "From work stuff? Or from me?" Her thumb stopped moving. "Why would you ask it like that?" "I'm not accusing you. I'm trying to understand what's going on." She put her phone face down. That was new too. The phone face down. "What's going on is that I'm finally paying attention to my emotional safety," she said. I remember standing there with the lid of a container in my hand, trying to decide if I was supposed to apologize for something or ask what that meant. "Did I do something that made you feel unsafe?" I asked. "That question puts me in the position of managing your feelings," she said. I stared at her for a second too long, and she sighed like I had proven her point. That was how a lot of conversations started going. I would ask a normal question, and by the time she finished answering, I felt like I had done something wrong by asking it. So when she said this sentence about a marriage without intimacy, part of me had been expecting something. Not that exactly, but something. It was a Saturday morning. The shared tablet was on the counter between us, still open to a grocery list from the night before. Her coffee was black. Mine had gone cold because I had been trying to read her face. She said it calmly, almost like she was suggesting we try a new budgeting app. Maybe we should try a marriage without intimacy. I almost laughed because my brain wanted it to be a bad joke. "Try it," I said. "Like, as a temporary thing? Are you okay?" Megan's face tightened. "I need you not to make this about you." I leaned back in my chair. "I'm not trying to. I just don't understand what you're asking for." "I'm asking for a boundary." "Okay," I said carefully. "A boundary around what?" She looked toward the window instead of at me. "Physical expectations. Emotional expectations. All of it. I don't want to feel like I owe you closeness just because we're married. That hurt more than I let show. I don't want you to feel like you owe me anything," I said. "But I need to know what this means for us. Are you unhappy? Did something happen? Do you want counseling?" She gave a small, humorless laugh. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. I say I need space, and suddenly you need a meeting, a diagnosis, and a plan. Megan, you're talking about changing our marriage. I'm talking about being respected without being interrogated." That was the first time I remember feeling like I wasn't talking to my wife anymore. I was talking to someone who had already written my lines for me. For the next few days, I did what I thought a decent husband was supposed to do. I gave her space. I didn't touch her unless she touched me first, and she didn't. I didn't bring up intimacy. I didn't ask for reassurance. I told myself that maybe she was overwhelmed. Maybe she needed control over her body and her life. Maybe there was something she wasn't ready to say. But then the rules started expanding. One night after dinner, I said, "Can we at least talk about how this is going to work? I don't want to accidentally make things worse." She was rinsing a plate. "I don't want nightly check-ins about my boundaries." "I'm not asking for nightly check-ins. You asked tonight. Because we haven't talked about it at all." She turned off the water and faced me. No touching unless I initiate. No bringing it up before bed. No asking if I still love you in that sad voice. No talking to our friends about it. And please don't walk around with that energy like I'm hurting you on purpose. I remember blinking at her. My energy? Yes. The wounded thing. It makes me feel guilty. I am hurt, I said. I'm allowed to be hurt. You're allowed to feel whatever you feel. You're not allowed to make me responsible for it. That sounded reasonable if you pulled it out of context and put it on a pastel background. Standing in our kitchen, it felt like being told I could bleed as long as I did it quietly. The house became quiet after that. Not peaceful. Quiet. We ate dinner in the same room and barely spoke. She watched shows on her phone with one earbud in. I slept badly on my side of the bed, careful not to roll too close. Sometimes I would wake up at 3 in the morning and see the blue light of her phone reflected on the wall. Once, I asked, "Do you want to watch something together?" She didn't look away from the screen. "I'm tired." "You've been tired for 3 months." That got her attention. "And you've been counting?" she asked. I didn't answer, because yes, I had been counting. Not in a spreadsheet. In the way lonely people count. The last time she reached for my hand. The last time she called me out. The last time she laughed at something I said instead of smiling like she was being polite. Then our friends started acting differently. We had a group chat with a handful of people we had known for years. Dana and her husband, Mark. A few others who came in and out depending on schedules. The chat used to be full of dumb memes, weekend plans, and complaints about grocery prices. Then I noticed the tone shifting around me. If I said Megan and I could bring dessert to a backyard barbecue, Dana would respond with, "Only if Megan's up for it. No pressure." If Mark joked, "You two still alive over there?" Megan would reply, "Trying." Some adjustments are harder for certain people. Dana sent a row of heart emojis. At first, I thought I was being sensitive. Then, after a couple's dinner at a casual place with sticky menus and a table too small for all the plates, I understood. Someone made a joke about marriage being mostly negotiating thermostat settings and deciding where to eat. Megan smiled into her water glass and said, "Albert's still adjusting to the idea that marriage isn't just about getting what he wants." The table went quiet. Mark said, "Whoa, that got real." Megan waved her hand lightly. "I'm just being honest." Everyone laughed in that awkward way people laugh when they're hoping the moment will pass if they make enough noise. I looked at her. "That's not fair." She tilted her head. "What isn't?" "You know what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything. I'm talking about boundaries." Dana looked at me then, not angry exactly, but cautious. Like I was a dog who might bite if she moved too fast. I didn't argue. I ate the rest of my food, even though I couldn't taste it. On the drive home, Megan stared out the passenger window. After 10 minutes of silence, she said, "You made everyone uncomfortable." I actually laughed once, not because it was funny, but because it was all I had left. I barely said anything. "Exactly. You sulked. You humiliated me in front of our friends." I shared my truth. "Your reaction is not my responsibility." That sentence stayed with me for days. A week later, at a small get-together in Dana's backyard, Megan did it again. We were standing near a cooler while people balanced paper plates on their laps. Someone was talking about how hard it was to keep romance alive after years together. Megan said, "Some men really don't know how to love a woman without expecting something back." A fork paused halfway to someone's mouth. I felt heat move up my neck. "I'm going to get some air," I said. Megan didn't follow me. She stayed by the cooler, surrounded by sympathetic silence. That night, I sat in my car in the driveway for almost 20 minutes before going inside. I wasn't angry in the loud way. I was tired in a way that felt dangerous. Like if I said one honest thing, it would come out with months attached to it. So I said less. That didn't mean I stopped noticing. Megan changed the password on her phone, then on her laptop. Then she signed out of the streaming account on the living room TV and said it was just a security thing. She started deleting notifications as soon as I walked into the room. She added things to our shared calendar like self-care, therapy, and journal night. But the locations were vague or missing. She bought new clothes, which I didn't mind. Megan had always liked clothes. But these were different. Not expensive in a dramatic way, just chosen with care. A new blouse. New perfume. Earrings I had never seen before. When I noticed, she said, "I'm allowed to want to feel like myself again." I didn't say you weren't. "You looked. I'm your husband. I noticed you looked nice." She gave me a thin smile. That's pressure too, Albert. After that, I stopped complimenting her. The first real red flag came from a bank alert. We had a shared credit card for household expenses. Nothing fancy, just groceries, gas, subscriptions, the normal stuff that keeps two adults from arguing over every receipt. One Thursday night, Megan had journal night on the calendar. She said she was going to sit somewhere quiet, write, and clear her head. At 8:42 p.m., my phone buzzed. A restaurant charge. Not a coffee shop. Not a small cafe. A full restaurant. And the amount was too high for one person eating soup with a notebook. When she came home, she smelled like garlic and someone else's cologne. How was journaling? I asked. She hung her bag on the chair. Peaceful. Why? No reason. I hated how calm my own voice sounded. The next clue came from the shared tablet. The tablet lived on the kitchen counter. We used it for recipes, grocery lists, the shared calendar, and sometimes streaming when one of us cooked. It was not her private device. It was ours. One Saturday, I opened it to find a recipe for chili because I needed something to do with my hands besides think. When I tapped the search bar, recent searches dropped down. Emotional affair, not cheating. How to ask for separation after saving money. Is it wrong to want desire outside marriage? I stared at the screen until it dimmed. I didn't click into anything. I didn't open a locked account. I didn't go hunting through her private messages. I just stood there with the refrigerator humming behind me while the words sat on a device we both used. That night, I barely slept. A few days later, a calendar invite appeared on the shared tablet while I was making coffee. Just a little banner at the top. R. 6:30 followed by the name of a coffee shop. Before I could even process it, it disappeared. Deleted. Megan walked into the kitchen 30 seconds later with wet hair and her phone in her hand. You're up early, she said. So are you. She smiled without showing teeth. Couldn't sleep. I nodded. That was when I changed how I handled things. I stopped trying to have emotional arguments in the kitchen. I stopped letting her turn every question into evidence against me. If something mattered, I wrote it down. I sent her an email one afternoon from the dining table while she was in the bedroom with the door closed. I respect your boundaries, but I need honesty and a real conversation about whether this marriage is still mutual. I am asking again for couples counseling. I am not asking you to change your boundary. I am asking whether you still want to repair this marriage with me. She responded 4 hours later with 3 sentences. I'm already in individual counseling. I need a safe space that is mine. Couples counseling feels like another way for you to pressure me into performing a marriage you want. I read it twice. Then I replied, where's my safe space in this marriage? She never answered. I started saving things that appeared on shared accounts and shared devices. Bank alerts, calendar changes, texts between Megan and me where I asked for counseling and she refused. I did not hack her phone. I did not guess passwords. I did not install anything or follow her. I knew myself well enough to know that if I crossed a line, she would make the whole story about that, and maybe she would be right. Then the shared tablet gave me the truth without me asking for it. It was a Tuesday night. Megan was in the shower. The tablet was on the counter, charging. I was packing up leftovers from a dinner she had barely eaten when a message preview lit up the screen. Ryan. I knew Ryan. Everyone knew Ryan. He was in the friend group. Not my closest friend, but close enough that he had eaten at our table, brought beer to our cookouts, and once helped me move a bookshelf that Megan wanted in the living room. The preview said, "Don't blow up your marriage for me." My whole body went still. The tablet was already signed into the shared messaging app Megan used sometimes because she liked typing on the bigger screen. I touched the notification. The conversation opened. I didn't read for an hour. I didn't dig back years. I read enough. Megan had written, "He probably won't leave. He's too comfortable." Then, "I just miss being wanted." Ryan had responded with the kind of attention that looks warm until it costs something. "You deserve to feel alive. You looked beautiful tonight. I think about you more than I should." But when Megan hinted at separating, Ryan turned slippery. "Don't blow up your marriage for me. I can't be responsible for your situation. I thought you had things handled." I stood in that kitchen with the leftovers getting cold and felt something in me break cleanly. Not explode. Break. For months, I had been trying to understand why my wife needed distance. I had been sleeping on my side of the bed like my body was a problem. I had been letting her friends look at me like I was some entitled husband who couldn't respect a no. And all that time, She had been telling another man she missed being wanted. That was the moment I stopped trying to win my wife back and started trying to get myself back. When Megan came out of the bathroom, her hair wrapped in a towel, I was washing the container lids. She glanced at the tablet. I saw the smallest change in her face. "Did you touch my messages?" she asked. I dried my hand slowly. The shared tablet lit up. Her mouth opened, then closed. I didn't confront her. Not then. "I'm tired," I said. For once, the word belonged to me. The next morning, I called a marriage attorney. I didn't know what I wanted yet. I just knew I needed to understand what was real and what my options were. The attorney was calm, practical, and completely uninterested in dramatic revenge. "Do not threaten," she said. "Do not perform. Communicate clearly. Keep records. Separate what you can separate legally and reasonably. Do not empty accounts. Do not play games." "That's already what I've been doing," I said. "Good. Keep doing it." So I did. I opened a separate account for my own income going forward. I stopped paying for a few non-essential shared charges that had clearly become part of Megan's secret outings. Not groceries. Not bills. Nothing cruel or reckless. Just the extras. The restaurant app linked to the shared card. A rideshare account she had been using on self-care nights. A subscription to a couple's experience service she had quietly repurposed for herself. When she noticed, she came into the living room holding her phone. "Why is the card declined on my account?" I looked up from the book I wasn't really reading. I removed some non-essential shared charges. Her eyes narrowed. "So now you're controlling money?" "No. I'm not funding dates I'm not supposed to know about." She went pale, then angry. "That is such an ugly accusation. It's also the last time I'm saying it out loud without a counselor or attorney present." She stared at me like she was waiting for the old version of me to start explaining, apologizing, softening the edges. I didn't. For about 2 weeks, the house became even colder. Megan was polite in the way strangers are polite in an elevator. She sent texts about groceries instead of speaking. She moved around me like I was furniture that had become inconvenient. But in public, she still performed. That was what pushed everything to the surface. Mark hosted a game night. I almost didn't go, but I was tired of disappearing from my own life, so Megan could control the room. It was casual. Chips in big bowls, paper plates bending under slices of pizza, a cooler of beer near the back door, someone's brownies on the counter under foil. The kind of night that should have been forgettable. Megan was charming the second we walked in. She hugged Dana. She laughed at Mark's bad joke. She touched my arm once in front of people, lightly, like she was placing a prop. I looked down at her hand until she removed it. We played a card game at the dining table. Someone joked, "After 11 years, you two probably read each other's minds." Megan smiled. Albert's still learning to read boundaries. There it was again. A few people chuckled, but it came out weak. I looked at her. She didn't look back. She shuffled her cards. Mark said, "Let's not make the card game a therapy session." Megan laughed. "I'm not. I'm just saying marriage isn't about getting what you want just because you're used to getting it." The room changed. You could feel it. The tiny silence before everyone decides whether to pretend they didn't hear something. I set my glass down. "That's enough," I said. Megan blinked at me. "Excuse me." I didn't raise my voice. I think that made it worse for her. "You asked me for a marriage without intimacy. I respected that. What I didn't agree to was being publicly painted as a man who didn't respect you." Dana's eyes dropped to the table. Megan gave a tight laugh. "Albert, you're making this weird." "No," I said. "What's strange is asking your husband for distance while telling someone else you miss being wanted." Nobody moved. Megan's face went white, then red. "Don't," she said. "I'm not going to read messages. I'm not going to give everyone details. But I am done being the villain in a story you edited." Ryan wasn't there that night. I was almost glad. If he had been, the room might have turned into something uglier. This way, the truth just landed in the middle of the table and stayed there. Megan pushed her chair back. "You went through my private messages?" "The shared tablet lit up with Ryan telling you not to blow up your marriage for him," I said. "That was after months of you telling our friends I was pressuring you because I wanted honesty from my wife." Her mouth trembled, but not with sadness. With rage. Dana whispered, "Ryan?" Mark looked at me, then at Megan, then down at his cards like he wished the table would swallow them. I stood up. "I'm not doing this in front of everyone," I said. "But I'm done helping you humiliate me." I thanked Mark for hosting because some ridiculous part of me still cared about manners, took my keys from the counter, and left. Megan didn't come home for 2 hours. When she did, she didn't speak to me. She texted me from the bedroom while I sat in the living room. You embarrassed me. I looked at the message for a long time before answering. You embarrassed me for months. I just stopped helping. Her response came fast. You betrayed my privacy. I typed, deleted, then typed again. You made our private marriage problem a public weapon. I corrected the lie without exposing details. She sent a paragraph after that. Then another. Words like violation, unsafe, controlling, cruel. I didn't respond to all of it. I had learned by then that some conversations are just traps with punctuation. The next day, the group chat was silent. By afternoon, Mark texted me privately. You okay, man? I almost wrote yes. Instead, I wrote no, but I will be. He replied, I should have checked on you sooner. I knew something felt off. That message hurt more than I expected. Not because of Mark. Because I realized how many people had noticed and still let me sit there alone while Megan took little pieces out of me in public. Dana texted 2 days later. I owe you an apology. I thought you were pushing her. I didn't know she was pushing a story. I sat with that one for a while. Finally, I wrote, thank you for saying that. She replied, I should have asked you. Yes, I thought. You should have. But I didn't say it. There was no point making every person pay in full for believing the first version they heard. Megan had been careful. She had made herself sound brave and me sound fragile. People like simple stories because they're easier to hold. Ryan disappeared almost immediately. I only know because Megan left her phone on the counter one morning while she was making toast, and I saw his name flash once before she snatched it up. Later, during one of our few direct conversations, she threw it at me like it was somehow my fault. Ryan won't even talk to me now, she said. I was standing by the sink, rinsing a mug. That's between you and Ryan. He said he can't be part of this. I looked at her then. Convenient. Her eyes filled with tears. For the first time in months, I saw panic instead of performance. You don't understand, she said. He made me feel seen. I nodded once. And I made you feel secure. She flinched. I didn't enjoy saying it. That was the strange part. There was no rush of victory. No satisfying music in the background. Just two people in a kitchen, one of them finally saying the thing both of them knew. A few days later, Megan's mother Linda called me. Linda had always been polite to me, but Megan was her daughter. I knew which version she had heard before I even answered. Albert, she said, her voice tight. Marriage has private struggles. I agree. Then I don't understand why you would shame Megan in front of friends. I looked at the wall above the couch. There was a framed photo from a vacation years ago, the two of us smiling in sunglasses like people who had no idea what was coming. I kept our struggles private until Megan turned them into public accusations, I said. She told people I didn't respect her boundaries. She left out Ryan. She left out the messages. She left out that I asked for counseling in writing, and she refused. Linda was quiet. I continued, I'm not going to send you screenshots unless I have to. I'm not trying to humiliate your daughter, but I won't accept being lied about anymore. Her voice changed a little. Not warm, exactly. Less certain. She told me you were angry all the time. I was lonely all the time, I said. That's different. Linda didn't apologize. Not then, but she stopped defending Megan with the same confidence. The separation conversation happened on a Thursday night because apparently the biggest moments in life don't care about dramatic timing. Megan stood in the doorway of the bedroom while I folded clothes into a duffel bag. Not everything, just enough to stay elsewhere for a while. So you're just giving up? She asked. I placed a shirt in the bag and smoothed it flat. No, that's what this is. I looked at her. This is me refusing to stay married to a version of you that only tells the truth when she gets caught. Her face crumpled for half a second, then hardened. I was confused. I would have accepted confused, I said. I would have accepted scared. I would have accepted, I don't know what I want if you had been honest. What I won't accept is being used as the cover story. She crossed her arms. You're acting like I had an affair. I'm acting like you betrayed our marriage. That's not the same thing. It was enough. She sat on the edge of the bed. For a moment, she looked younger, tired, less polished. I could see the woman I had loved inside the woman who had hurt me, and that almost broke my resolve more than her anger ever could have. I didn't know how to tell you I wasn't happy, she said. I zipped the bag. So you told everyone else I was the reason. She didn't answer. That silence was the closest thing to honesty I had gotten in months. The separation wasn't instant or clean. Real life rarely gives you a dramatic exit and a neat closing shot. There were documents, calls, awkward logistics, dividing bills, deciding who kept what. A few late-night texts from Megan that swung between apology and accusation so quickly I stopped trusting either one. One said, "I miss us." I wanted to ask which us she meant, the real one or the one she performed when people were watching. Instead, I wrote, "Please send anything about the separation by email." That became my boundary. Not a weapon, not a performance, just a line I could actually stand behind. Over the next month, I stopped attending events as Megan's silent prop. If friends invited both of us, I answered for myself. If someone hinted around the situation, I didn't dump every detail. I said, "Megan and I are separating." There was dishonesty, and I'm not comfortable saying more. Some people respected that. Some people wanted gossip. I learned quickly who was checking on me and who was collecting pieces of a story. Mark came by one evening with takeout. We ate at the kitchen counter because the dining table felt too formal and the couch still felt married. He said, "I'm sorry, man. I should have said something when she made those comments." I opened a sauce packet and got it on my thumb. "Yeah," I said. He nodded. "Fair." That was why I still trusted Mark. He didn't try to make his apology comfortable for himself. Dana sent one more message a week later. "I talked to Megan. I don't think she understands how much she shaped what we believed." I read it, then put the phone down. That was Megan's work to do, not mine. Linda eventually called again. This time, her voice was quieter. "I don't know everything," she said, "but I know Megan left things out." "Yes," I said. "I'm sorry for assuming." I looked out the window above the sink. It was raining lightly, tapping against the glass in a way that made the house feel bigger and emptier. "Thank you," I said. That was all. I didn't need her to turn against her daughter. I just needed one person from Megan's side to admit the truth had not been what they were sold. Megan tried once to suggest a reset. Not reconciliation exactly. Something blurrier. Dinner, maybe counseling later, maybe living separately, but not making anything final. Maybe holding space for what we had been. We were standing near the front door. She had come by to pick up a box of books and a sweater she said she needed, though it was warm outside. "I think we're moving too fast," she said. I almost laughed at that. For months, she had moved our marriage into a cold, locked room and told me I was selfish for noticing. Now that I had found the door, I was moving too fast. "I'm not interested in a vague break," I said. "I'm not asking for that." "What are you asking for?" She looked down at the box in her hands. "I don't know." For once, I believed her. But not knowing was not enough anymore. "I hope you figure it out," I said. "I really do. But I'm not waiting inside the damage while you decide what to call it." She cried then, quietly. I didn't hug her. That might sound cold, but for months my comfort had been treated like something she could reject privately and use publicly. I couldn't offer it without betraying myself. When she left, I closed the door and stood there for a while with my hand still on the knob. The house was quiet again. But this time, the quiet didn't feel like punishment. It felt like space I was allowed to exist in. I don't think intimacy can be demanded. I never thought that. Nobody owes their body to another person, not even in marriage. If Megan had come to me honestly and said she was struggling, if she had said she felt disconnected or unsure or afraid, I would have sat in that pain with her. I would have gone to counseling. I would have accepted hard truths. What I could not accept was being told that my hurt was manipulation while her dishonesty was healing. I could not accept being called needy because I missed the woman who still wanted someone else to want her. I could not accept being turned into a cautionary tale at dinner tables so she could feel brave without being honest. A marriage without intimacy can survive if both people are honest. People go through illness, grief, trauma, distance, fear, change. Love can adapt when truth is still in the room. But a marriage without honesty has already ended. It just takes a while for someone to say it out loud. I was the one who finally did. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.